The silence inside the chapel was the loudest thing Clara had ever heard. It pressed against her eardrums like underwater pressure, thick and suffocating. Outside, she could hear the distant murmur of 200 guests settling into their pews, the soft hum of a string quartet tuning their instruments, the occasional laugh that felt like a knife against her skin. But in here, standing before the altar in her $30,000 dress, there was only silence, and the sound of her own heart trying to escape her chest. She gripped the edge of the wooden altar railing, her white lace gloves rough against the polished oak. Her reflection stared back at her from a tall silver vase beside the podium, distorted, wavy, almost unrecognizable. She barely knew the woman in that reflection anymore. That woman was supposed to be happy. That woman was supposed to be the luckiest girl in the city. That woman was supposed to be counting down the minutes until she became Clara Bennett Hayes. Instead, Clara was counting how long she could hold her breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. She exhaled shakily. 47 seconds. Not enough. Never enough to make the panic stop. The dress felt like armor she hadn't asked to wear. Layers of silk and lace and hand-sewn pearls that weighed more than her entire sense of self. Her mother had cried when she tried it on for the first time. Clara had smiled for her mother, twirled even, while something inside her curled up tighter like a fist. 47 seconds. Pathetic. She pressed her palm flat against her chest, feeling the rapid thump beneath layers of fabric. Her makeup was flawless. Victoria had made sure of that, hiring an artist who charged more than Clara's first car. But flawless makeup meant nothing when your eyes looked like someone had died. Maybe someone had. Maybe the someone was her. The thought should have frightened her. Instead, it just felt like truth. Clara turned away from the altar, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she walked toward the stained glass window on the side wall. St. Catherine, or someone like that. She'd stopped paying attention during the rehearsal. Light filtered through the colored glass, painting her white dress in fragments of blue and gold. She looked like something broken made beautiful. 16 more minutes. That was how long she had until the doors opened. Until the music swelled. Until she walked down that aisle on her father's arm and smiled at Liam Hayes and became someone else entirely. Liam. Even his name felt heavy now. When they first met, at a charity gala 18 months ago, he had seemed like everything. Tall, handsome, charismatic in that effortless way that money buys when you're born into it. He'd walked across the room specifically to meet her, ignored every other woman there, and asked her what she thought about the art on the walls. She'd given an honest answer. She hated modern abstract, always had, and he'd laughed like she'd said something brilliant. "You're different," he'd said. She should have heard the warning in that word. Different meant refreshing. Different meant interesting. Different meant a distraction from the polished, predictable women his mother kept introducing him to at country club events. Different did not mean loved. The first cracks appeared around month 4. A dinner reservation she'd been excited about for weeks, cancelled because a client flew into town last minute. She'd understood. Of course she understood. He was building an empire. She was just grateful he wanted her in it. Then came the comments. Small at first, almost invisible. "That dress is nice, but blue washes you out. Maybe stick with neutrals." Said with a smile, like he was helping. Like he was curating her. Then the scheduling. His assistant started calling her assistant to coordinate their social calendar. Clara didn't have an assistant. She was a freelance graphic designer who worked from her apartment, but Liam's assistant, Patricia, was very clear about what dates worked and what events required Clara's attendance. Required. That word had lodged itself in Clara's chest like a splinter. Then came Victoria. Liam's mother was a masterpiece of controlled elegance. Silver hair swept into a perfect chignon. Jewelry that predated the revolution in whatever country it came from. A smile that never reached her eyes. She'd approved of Clara immediately, which should have been Clara's first clue that something was terribly wrong. "You have such a lovely, simple quality," Victoria had said at their second meeting. "Liam needs someone grounded. Someone who won't overshadow him. Not someone he loved. Someone who wouldn't overshadow him." Clara's mother thought Victoria was magnificent. Her father kept shaking Liam's hand a little too long, a little too eagerly, mentioning the family business and how wonderful it was that such a prominent family would welcome their daughter. The engagement happened 6 months later. Liam proposed at the top of a building he owned, with the city lights spread beneath them like jewels on black velvet. He'd hired a photographer to capture the moment. The photos were beautiful. Clara's smile was perfect. Her eyes, even then, looked like someone counting seconds. Now, standing in the empty chapel with 16 minutes left, Clara felt the first tear slip free. She didn't wipe it away. What was the point? She was alone. No one could see. The second tear followed the first, tracing a hot path down her cheek, carving through the expensive foundation and blush. Then a third. Then she couldn't stop them, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stand there in her wedding dress and cry like her heart was actually breaking. Except hearts didn't break, she'd learned. They just got quieter. 12 minutes. She pressed both hands to her face, feeling the wetness soak through her gloves. Her shoulders shook. A small sound escaped her throat, something between a gasp and a sob, and it echoed off the stone walls, bouncing back at her like a judgment. This is insane, she thought. I have to go through with it. Everything is arranged. Everyone is here. My parents would never recover. His mother would. The thought of Victoria's face made her stomach clench with actual physical pain. So she stood there, crying, alone, trapped, until she heard the footsteps. They came from the side entrance, the small door near the back of the chapel that led to the gardens. The one the wedding party wasn't supposed to use. The one that creaked slightly when it opened, which it did now, the sound cutting through Clara's sobs like a blade. She spun around, hands dropping from her face, panic flooding through her so fast she felt dizzy. He stood in the doorway, backlit by the afternoon sun, a tall silhouette against the brightness. For one horrible second, she thought it was Liam. Thought he'd come early to see her, to check on his bride, to witness exactly what she was falling apart. But the figure stepped forward, and the light shifted, and Clara saw his face. Noah. Liam's younger brother. The one who never came to family events. The one who lived in a different city, who ran a small bookstore that barely made profit, who Victoria referred to only as my son the disappointment. The one who, according to Liam, had checked out of real life years ago. No one had expected him to come to the wedding. Clara certainly hadn't. He stood there in a dark suit that didn't quite fit, shoulders a little too broad, sleeves a little too short, his dark hair slightly disheveled, his expression frozen somewhere between confusion and something she couldn't name. His eyes moved from her face to the tear tracks on her cheeks to her shaking hands pressed against her dress. And then back to her eyes. He didn't speak. Didn't move. Just looked at her with an intensity that made her want to disappear into the marble floor. Clara opened her mouth to explain, to say something, anything, but no words came. What could she possibly say? I'm fine, just allergies, just pre-wedding jitters, just the normal terror of selling your soul to a family that sees you as an asset? Instead, she just stood there, crying, silent, completely exposed. Noah closed the door behind him. The click of the latch was the loudest sound she'd ever heard. He walked toward her slowly, deliberately, like he was approaching something wounded. His shoes made soft sounds against the marble, nothing like the confident stride of his brother. Noah moved like someone who didn't need to announce himself. He stopped a few feet away, close enough to see the damage, far enough to give her space. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Noah did something that broke her completely. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a handkerchief, plain white cotton, nothing fancy, and held it out to her. No questions. No judgment. No performative concern. Just an offering. Clara stared at the handkerchief like she'd never seen one before. Her hands wouldn't move. Her brain wouldn't function. All she could do was stand there, drowning, while this man she barely knew watched her fall apart. Noah didn't wait for permission. He stepped forward, close enough now that she could smell something clean and simple, laundry soap, maybe, or the rain that had threatened all morning, and gently pressed the handkerchief into her glove hand. His fingers brushed hers for just a second. Warm. That was the only thought that cut through the noise. His warm. I'm sorry, Clara whispered. Her voice sounded like someone else's. Broken. Thin. I didn't mean, you weren't supposed to. Hey. His voice was quiet. Not soft exactly, but gentle in a way that suggested he knew exactly how loud her world was right now. Breathe first. Words later. She looked up at him. Really looked. She'd seen Noah maybe 4 times in the 18 months she'd known Liam. Christmas dinner, where he'd sat at the far end of the table and barely spoken. A charity thing where he'd arrived late and left early. One awkward dinner where Liam had invited him specifically to prove some point about how different they were. Each time, Clara had registered him as background. The black sheep. The quiet one. The failure. She'd never noticed his eyes before. They were the same color as Liam's, that pale haze gray that looked almost silver in certain light, but where Liam's eyes were sharp and assessing, constantly calculating, Noah's were still. Deep. Like water you couldn't see the bottom of. Right now, those eyes were seeing straight through her. Noah, she stopped. Pressed the handkerchief to her face. Took a breath that shuddered through her whole body. You can't tell anyone. Please. They can't know I was crying at your own wedding 15 minutes before it starts. His voice held no judgment. Just observation. Claudia nodded miserably. Noah looked at her for another long moment. Then he did something that surprised her more than his arrival. He sat down. Right there on the steps leading up to the altar, his 2 short suit pants riding up to show his ankles, his broad shoulders relaxing as he made himself comfortable on the cold marble. He stretched his legs out, crossed his feet at the ankles, and looked up at her like they had all the time in the world. I'm not going to tell anyone anything, he said quietly. I came in here to hide from my mother for 5 minutes. Found something more interesting. Clara almost laughed. Almost. The sound that came out was somewhere between a sob and a choke. More interesting, she repeated. Right. The crying bride. Very interesting. Noah tilted his head. Not the crying part. The part where you're still here. Clara frowned. What do you mean? I mean, Noah said slowly, that most people who cry like that 15 minutes before their wedding aren't standing at the altar. They're running for the exit. You're not running. That's interesting. The words landed somewhere deep in Clara's chest, right next to the panic. He sees me, she thought. He actually sees me. And for the first time in 18 months, Clara felt something other than trapped. She felt terrified in a completely different way. Because Noah Hayes, the disappointment, the black sheep, the one who wasn't supposed to matter, Noah Hayes had just walked into her prison, sat down on the steps, and asked her, without asking, why she was still inside. Clara stared at Noah for what felt like an eternity. He sat there on the marble steps like he had nowhere else to be, like 200 guests weren't waiting just beyond those doors, like his mother wasn't probably already scanning the crowd with those sharp, assessing eyes. His posture was loose, open, the complete opposite of the rigid perfection his family demanded. She should tell him to leave. She should thank him for the handkerchief, wipe her face, fix her makeup, and walk back into her cage like the good little bride everyone expected. Instead, she heard herself speak. I don't know how to run. The words came out raw, honest in a way she hadn't been with anyone in months. Not her mother, who would panic. Not her father, who would lecture. Not her friends, who would tell her she was just getting cold feet, that every bride felt this way, that Liam was a catch and she was lucky. Lucky. Noah didn't respond right away. He just nodded slowly, like he was turning her words over in his mind, examining them from every angle before offering them back. Running's overrated anyway, he finally said. Usually just means you end up somewhere else, trapped in a different way. Clara let out a shaky breath. That's actually not helpful. The corner of Noah's mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Sorry. Philosophy degree. Comes out sometimes. You have a philosophy degree. Clara hadn't meant to ask. The question just slipped out, a tiny thread of normal curiosity in the middle of her unraveling. Among other useless things. Noah shrugged. My mother likes to list them at dinner parties. Lets everyone know exactly how far I've fallen. Clara thought about Victoria's cold smile, her careful way of mentioning Noah's chosen path like it was a terminal illness. She'd sat through 3 of those dinner parties. She'd never once defended him. Guilt joined the chaos in her chest. "You came anyway," Clara said quietly. "To the wedding. Even though I came because my brother's getting married." Noah's voice was even, unreadable. Didn't realize until just now what he was actually marrying. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning Clara wasn't ready to examine. She looked away, toward the stained glass window, toward St. Catherine and her peaceful expression. "You don't know anything about it. About us. You've been gone." "I know, Liam." That was all he said. 3 words. Simple. Devastating. Clara's eyes snapped back to his face. Noah was watching her with that same quiet intensity, not pushing, not prodding, just present. Waiting. "You don't," she heard herself say. "He's different with me." He was different. Noah didn't argue. Didn't point out that she was standing here crying 15 minutes before her wedding, which suggested Liam wasn't different enough. He just waited. And waiting, Clara discovered, was more dangerous than questions. Questions gave her somewhere to hide. Silence just left her exposed. "He was so charming when we met," she whispered. "So interested. He made me feel like I was the only person in the world who mattered." Noah nodded. He's good at that. At what? Making people feel like they're the center of his universe. Until they're not. Noah's voice stayed soft, but something flickered in his eyes. Old pain. Buried deep. "I remember what it was like, being important to Liam. It's a hell of a drug." Clara's throat tightened. "You're talking about childhood." Noah cut her off gently. "Before I stopped being useful to his image. Before I became the disappointment." He paused. "I know how he operates, Clara. The attention. The gifts. The way he convinces you that his vision for your life is actually what you want." His vision for your life. The words hit too close to something Clara had been trying not to name. The apartment he'd chosen for them. "You'll love it, trust me." The friends he'd slowly eased her away from. "They don't really want what's best for you, Clara." The career she'd put on hold. "After the wedding, we'll talk about your little projects." Little projects. Her design work. Her passion. The thing that had made her her before Liam Hayes walked into that charity gala and decided she was interesting. "I'm not a child," Clara said, but her voice cracked on the word, undermining everything. Noah didn't flinch. "Didn't say you were. Said I know my brother." The chapel doors suddenly rattled, someone trying to open them from the other side. Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. She grabbed Noah's arm without thinking, her gloved fingers digging into his sleeve. "Don't," she gasped. "Please. I can't." Noah was already moving. He stood smoothly, positioning himself between Clara and the door, his broad back creating a wall of privacy. His hand came up, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his palm. "Who is it?" he called out, his voice calm, casual. A muffled voice came through the heavy wood. "Patricia. Liam sent me to check on Clara. Is she in there?" Liam's assistant. Of course. Clara's breath came in short, panicked bursts. Her makeup was ruined. Her eyes were red. She looked nothing like a bride ready to walk down the aisle. "She's in here," Noah called back, not moving from his protective stance. "Needed a minute alone. I'm keeping her company." Another pause. Then Patricia's voice, slightly suspicious. "Is everything all right?" Noah looked at Clara. Really looked. His grey eyes moved over her face, cataloguing the damage, assessing what could be fixed and what couldn't. Then he did something remarkable. He smiled. Not a big smile. Not a performative smile. Just a small, quiet curve of his lips that somehow made her feel like everything was going to be okay. "Everything's fine," he called to Patricia. "Just nerves. Tell Liam his bride is perfect. She'll be ready." More silence from the other side. Then footsteps, retreating. Clara exhaled so hard her whole body shook. She was still gripping Noah's arm. She let go immediately, stepping back, heat flooding her cheeks. "I'm sorry," I shouldn't have. It's fine. Noah lowered his hand. But we've got maybe 10 minutes before someone else comes looking. Probably my mother, and she won't be as easy to bluff. 10 minutes. 10 minutes to fix her face. 10 minutes to pull herself together. 10 minutes to decide if she was really going to walk through those doors and become Mrs. Liam Hayes. Clara looked at Noah, really looked at him for the first time without the fog of panic clouding her vision. He was handsome in a completely different way than Liam. Where Liam was polished and perfect, Noah was rough around the edges, a slight shadow on his jaw, a small scar near his eyebrow, hands that looked like they'd actually done physical work at some point. He stood with his weight shifted to one side, completely at ease in his own skin in a way his brother had never been. "Why are you helping me?" Clara asked. "I'm practically a stranger. I'm about to marry your brother. Your family probably loves me." Noah's expression flickered. Something dark passed through his eyes, there and gone. "My family loves what you represent," he said quietly. "Stability. Respectability. Someone who won't push back too hard, who'll smile in photos and produce perfect children and never ask uncomfortable questions about where the money came from or who got hurt along the way." Clara felt like she'd been slapped. "You don't know that's what I am." "Don't I?" The question wasn't cruel. It was honest. And somehow that was worse. Clara opened her mouth to defend herself, to explain that she wasn't weak, wasn't just some prop for their family portrait, but the words died in her throat. Because hadn't she proven exactly that? Hadn't she smiled and nodded and let herself be reshaped into whatever Liam needed? Hadn't she stood here crying instead of walking out the door? "You're not wrong," she whispered. "About me. About any of it." Noah's expression softened. "I wasn't trying to be right. I was trying to understand why you're still here." "Because I don't have anywhere to go." The words tumbled out, fast and desperate. "My parents, they've invested everything in this wedding. In this connection. My father's business has been struggling for years, and Liam's family, they've helped. Loans, introductions, opportunities. If I walk out, my father loses everything. My mother loses her place in the community. I lose." She stopped, choking on the list. "What do you lose?" Noah asked gently. Clara met his eyes. "Myself. I already lost myself. Walking out just makes it official." Noah was quiet for a long moment. The distant sound of the string quartet drifted through the walls. They were playing something soft and romantic, completely at odds with everything happening in this chapel. "Can I tell you something?" Noah asked. "Something I've never told anyone in my family." Clara nodded, not trusting her voice. "When I left, really left, not just moved out, I thought I was saving myself. Thought I was being brave." He paused, his jaw tightening. "And I was. But I also left my mother alone with him. Left her to absorb everything I couldn't handle. Walked away and told myself she was an adult. She could make her own choices." "Your mother." Clara frowned. "Victoria. She's not the monster you think she is." Noah's voice was rough. "She's just someone who got trapped so long ago she forgot there was a door. Now she guards the cage because it's the only home she knows. Makes her feel powerful instead of powerless." Clara stared at him, pieces clicking into place. The way Victoria controlled everything. The way she managed Liam's image, curated his life, destroyed anyone who threatened their perfect family portrait. She wasn't evil. She was scared. And she was raising Clara to replace her. The realization hit like ice water. Clara saw her future flash before her, 30 years from now, standing where Victoria stood, managing some other woman's daughter, guarding the same cage because she'd forgotten there was ever a door. "No," she breathed. "I can't, I won't." "Then don't." Noah stepped closer. Not threatening, just present. Solid. "Don't walk down that aisle, Clara. Don't become her. Don't let my brother win just because it's easier than fighting. You don't understand." Clara's voice cracked. "The contracts. The legal agreements. The money my parents owe. If I walk out, they lose everything. Everything. How do I live with that? How do I look at my mother's face and tell her I chose my freedom over her security? Noah held her gaze. How do you look at your own face in the mirror every day for the rest of your life and tell yourself you are worth sacrificing? The question hit like a physical blow. Clara couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only stand there, drowning, while this man she barely knew held up a mirror and forced her to look. 10 minutes, Noah said softly. That's all you have. Not to decide forever, just to decide what happens in the next 10 minutes. Can you do that? Clara nodded, numb. Then here's what I need you to hear. Noah leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. Whatever you decide, walk down that aisle or run for the door, I'll help you. I don't know you, Clara, but I know trapped. I know what it looks like when someone's forgotten they have a choice. You haven't forgotten. You're still here, still fighting, still crying instead of going numb. That means something. What does it mean? Clara whispered. It means you're not lost yet. Noah stepped back. Now fix your face. Or don't. But whatever you do it because you chose it. Not because you ran out of time. He turned toward the side door, the one he'd come through, the one that led to the gardens and the fresh air and everything outside this gilded cage. Wait. Clara's voice stopped him. Where are you going? Noah looked back over his shoulder. Giving you space to decide. I'll be outside that door for the next 10 minutes. If you want to run, I'll show you the way. If you want to stay. He paused. I'll come back in, take my seat, and watch you marry my brother. And I'll never mention any of this to anyone. That's, Clara swallowed hard. That's more than anyone's ever offered me. Noah's expression softened into something almost sad. That's the lowest bar in the world, Clara. Don't thank me for it. He walked out. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving Clara alone with her reflection, her ruined makeup, and 10 minutes that would decide everything. She looked at the altar, at the aisle, at the doors where her future waited. Then she looked at the side door, the one Noah had walked through, the one that led somewhere else. Her hand moved to her chest, feeling her heart hammer beneath layers of silk and lace. Not lost yet. Noah's words echoed in her mind. She took a breath. Then another. And for the first time in 18 months, Clara started thinking about what she actually wanted. The side door clicked shut behind Noah, and Clara was alone with the silence again. But it was different now. The silence had changed. Before, it had been suffocating, a heavy blanket smothering her. Now it felt like a held breath, waiting to see what she would do. 10 minutes. She looked at herself in the silver vase again. Her reflection was still a mess, tear tracks carving through her foundation, eyes swollen, lips trembling. But something else had shifted in that distorted image. Something behind her eyes that hadn't been there before. She looked like someone who was thinking. Clara pressed Noah's handkerchief to her face, blotting the tears, wiping away the ruined makeup. The cotton was soft against her skin, surprisingly gentle. It smelled faintly of him, that clean, simple scent she'd noticed earlier. Rain and soap and something warm underneath. She should fix her makeup properly. Patricia probably had her emergency kit somewhere, full of powder and lipstick and all the tools needed to paint a smile on a woman's face. But Clara didn't move toward the door where Patricia had knocked. She stood frozen in the middle of the chapel, one hand pressed to her chest, the other clutching Noah's handkerchief like a lifeline. Not lost yet. The words repeated in her mind, a mantra, a prayer. But knowing you weren't lost and finding your way out were two very different things. Clara thought about her father, about the way his hand shook when he signed documents now, the tremor he tried to hide, about the calls he took in other rooms, voice low and strained, about the way he looked at Liam, not with the warmth of a future father-in-law, but with the desperate gratitude of a drowning man who'd just been thrown a rope. She thought about her mother, about the pride in her eyes when she talked about the wedding, about the guest list she'd curated so carefully, making sure every important person in the city saw her daughter marry into the Hayes family, about the future she'd already planned, grandchildren in private schools, summer homes, a security she'd never had. If Clara walked out, She didn't just ruin her own life. She destroyed theirs. But if she stayed, a knock at the side door made her jump. "It's me." Noah's voice, low and quiet through the wood. 2 minutes until someone official comes looking. "What's your answer?" Clara stared at the door. Her heart hammered so hard she could feel it in her throat. "What do I want?" The question felt foreign, like a language she'd once known but forgotten how to speak. 18 months of being shaped, molded, managed. She'd stopped asking herself what she wanted. She'd only asked what Liam wanted, what Victoria wanted, what her parents needed, what was expected. What do I want? She wanted to stop feeling like she was drowning. She wanted to wake up without that weight on her chest. She wanted to be seen, really seen, by someone who didn't want to change her. She wanted. Another knock. Softer. "Clara." Her hand moved before her brain caught up. She crossed the marble floor in 6 quick steps and pulled the door open. Noah stood in the garden doorway, backlit by a weak afternoon sun that had finally broken through the clouds. His expression was calm, patient, but something flickered in his eyes when he saw her face, something that looked almost like hope. "I don't know what I want," Clara whispered. "I know what I don't want, but I don't know if that's enough." Noah studied her for a moment. Then he did something unexpected. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. "I need to show you something," he said quietly, "before you decide anything." Clara frowned. "What is it?" Instead of answering, Noah glanced back toward the garden, checking that they were alone. Then he stepped into the chapel, closing the door behind him, and gestured for Clara to sit on the altar steps. "This isn't easy for me," he said, his voice rough. "What I'm about to show you, it's my family. My blood. And I've been carrying it for 3 days, not knowing what to do with it." Clara's stomach tightened. "Noah, you're scaring me." "Good." He sat down beside her on the steps, close enough that she could feel his warmth again. "You should be scared. But not of me." He unlocked his phone and pulled up a video file. "Last Thursday, I stopped by the house to pick up some old books my father left me. No one was supposed to be home. But Liam and my mother were in the study, and they left their dictaphone running after a meeting." A dictaphone. They record everything. Business meetings, calls, conversations they want to reference later. Noah's jaw tightened. They forgot to turn it off when the meeting ended. Kept recording while they talked. Just the two of them, thinking no one could hear. Clara stared at the phone in his hand. The video thumbnail was just a blank screen with audio bars. She didn't understand what she was looking at. What did they say? Noah met her eyes. His gaze was heavy with something she couldn't name. Pity. Grief. Anger. "Clara, I need you to understand something before you watch this. My brother, he's not just cold. He's not just controlling. He's..." Noah trailed off, searching for words. "He sees people as assets, investments, things to be managed. And my mother taught him that. Just show me." Clara's voice came out steadier than she felt. "Whatever it is, I need to know." Noah hesitated 1 more second. Then he pressed play. The audio was scratchy at first, just static and background noise. Then Victoria's voice came through, clear and sharp as glass. "The prenup is solid. She can't touch anything if she leaves within the first 5 years. After that, we'll have children, and she won't leave anyway." Clara's blood went cold. Liam's voice followed, smooth and confident. "She won't leave at all. Clara's too loyal. Too worried about what people think. That's what makes her perfect." "Perfect is a strong word," Victoria replied. "She's adequate. Her family connections are adequate. Her looks are adequate. But adequate is what we need right now. After the scandal with Noah, the family image needs stability. Clara projects stability. She also brings her father's business connections. Small, but they'll grow with our backing." "Exactly." A pause, the sound of ice clinking in a glass. "And she's malleable. That's the most important thing. In a few years, she won't remember she ever had opinions of her own. She'll be one of us. Liam laughed. It was the same laugh Clara had fallen in love with. Warm, charming, disarming. Hearing it now made her stomach lurch. She already is, Mother. She just doesn't know it yet. The recording continued, but Clara stopped hearing the words. They washed over her in waves of numbness, each one driving the knife deeper. Assets. Adequate. Malleable. She wasn't a person to them. She was a project. An acquisition. Something to be shaped and managed until she forgot she'd ever had a self to lose. Noah reached over and paused the video. The sudden silence was deafening. Clara realized she was shaking. Her whole body trembled, fine tremors running through her hands, her shoulders, her legs. She couldn't seem to stop. "I'm sorry," Noah whispered. "I'm so sorry you had to hear that." "How long?" Clara's voice came out cracked, barely audible. "How long have you had this?" 3 days. The words cost him something. She could see it in the way his jaw tightened, the way he wouldn't quite meet her eyes. "I didn't know what to do. If I showed you before the wedding, you might not believe me. Might think I was lying, trying to sabotage my brother. And if I showed you after..." He finally looked at her. "After would be too late." "Why now?" Clara asked. "Why show me at all?" Noah was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was raw in a way she'd never heard from anyone in his family. "Because I've spent 10 years watching my mother disappear. Piece by piece, year by year, until there was nothing left but this shell that guards the cage instead of trying to escape." He swallowed hard. "And when I walked in here and saw you crying, I realized I couldn't watch it happen again. I couldn't stand by while another woman got swallowed by my family." Clara stared at him. At the pain in his eyes, the weight on his shoulders, the way his hands gripped his phone like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. "You're sacrificing yourself," she whispered. "Showing me this. Your family will never forgive you. They'll cut you out completely." "They already cut me out." Noah's smile was sad. "I've been the disappointment for years. This just gives them a reason to make it official." "But why?" The question tore out of Clara, raw and desperate. "Why would you do that for me? You don't even know me." Noah looked at her for a long, suspended moment. The afternoon light shifted through the stained glass, painting them both in fragments of color. "Because you were crying," he said simply. "Because you were standing at the altar of my family's church, about to sacrifice yourself on an altar they built, and you were crying. And no one else was there to see it. No one else was there to help. That's not a reason. It's the only reason that matters." Noah leaned forward, his gray eyes intense. "Clara, listen to me. I can't make your choices for you. I can't tell you what to do with this. But I can give you the truth. What you do with it, that's yours." Clara looked down at the phone in his hand, at the paused video that held the proof of her imprisonment. Proof. That was what he'd given her. Not just a warning, not just sympathy, proof. Evidence that would destroy the Hayes family's perfect image. Evidence that would free her from any obligation to protect people who saw her as an asset. Evidence that would make Noah a traitor to his own blood. "This will ruin you," Clara said quietly. "If I use this, your family will never speak to you again." Noah shrugged. It was a small movement, almost casual, but she saw the grief underneath. "My family stopped speaking to me years ago. We just kept showing up to events." Clara's eyes burned with fresh tears, but these were different. These weren't tears of trapped despair. These were tears of something she hadn't felt in so long she barely recognized it. Gratitude. Hope. "You barely know me," she whispered. "And you're giving me everything." Noah met her gaze. "I'm giving you a choice. That's all anyone ever really needs." From beyond the chapel doors, the string quartet shifted into a new song. The processional. It was starting. Clara's heart stopped. She couldn't finish. "That's your cue." Noah stood, offering her his hand. "So what's it going to be, Clara? The aisle or the door?" Clara looked at his hand. Then at the phone still in his other hand, holding her freedom. Then at the chapel doors, behind which 200 people waited to watch her disappear. She thought about her father's shaking hands, her mother's proud smile, the life she'd been building toward, brick by brick, without ever asking if she wanted to live in that house. Then she thought about Victoria's voice on that recording. Malleable. Adequate. She won't leave anyway. Clara took Noah's hand. She pulled herself up, standing face to face with him in the colored light. Her grip was firm, steady in a way she hadn't felt in months. "I'm not walking down that aisle," she said. "But I'm not running out the back door either." Noah's brow furrowed. Then what? Clara's eyes moved to the main doors. The ones that led to the congregation. The ones that led to Liam. "I'm walking out the front," she said quietly. "Through the church. Past every single person who came to watch me disappear. And I'm going to show them exactly what your family really is." Noah stared at her. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or respect. "Clara, if you do that." "Then I do it." She squeezed his hand once, then let go. "You gave me a choice, Noah. This is the one I'm making. Not hiding. Not running. Walking right through the middle of their perfect wedding and telling the truth." She held out her hand for the phone. Noah looked at it. Looked at her. For a long moment, she thought he might refuse. Might protect his family one last time, even after everything. Then he placed the phone in her palm. "Your parents," he said quietly. "Their financial situation. If you expose Liam, he might." "I know." Clara's voice was steady. "I know what I'm risking. But I can't spend my life being adequate, Noah. I can't be malleable. Not anymore." From beyond the doors, the music swelled. The processional had begun. Any second now, those doors would open, and Clara was supposed to start walking. Instead, she started walking toward them. Noah fell into step beside her. "What do you need me to do?" Clara stopped at the massive wooden doors. She could hear the rustle of 200 people rising from their seats. Could hear the organ now, grand and triumphant, playing the song that was supposed to carry her into her new life. She turned to Noah. "Stand beside me," she said. "Whatever happens next, just stand beside me." Noah nodded once. No hesitation. Clara took a deep breath. Her hand found the heavy iron handle of the door, and she pulled. Light flooded the chapel, not just the afternoon sun streaming through the stained glass, but the warm glow of 100 candles, the soft chandelier lights, the collective brightness of 200 people turning to witness the bride's entrance. Clara stood in the doorway. And everything stopped. Later, she would try to remember the details, the exact shade of Liam's face as it drained of color, the precise moment Victoria's perfect smile froze into something brittle, the way her mother's hands flew to her mouth in horror. But in that moment, there was only sensation. The weight of 200 stares pressing against her skin. The thunder of her own heart drowning out the organ music that had stumbled to a halt. The solid warmth of Noah beside her, close enough to feel but not touching, a promise that she wasn't alone. She hadn't fixed her makeup. That was the first thing she registered, almost absently. The tear tracks were still there, carved through the expensive foundation. Her eyes were red, swollen. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who had been crying at her own wedding. But she was walking forward anyway. The aisle stretched before her, endless and terrifying. A red carpet lined with white roses, leading straight to Liam. He stood at the altar in his perfect suit, his perfect hair, his perfect smile frozen into something that didn't quite reach his eyes. Behind him, the priest looked confused. Beside him, the best man, some business associate Clara barely knew, shifted uncomfortably. Clara took a step. Then another. The silence was absolute. No one whispered. No one moved. 200 people held their breath as the bride walked toward them with wrecked makeup and something dangerous in her eyes. She saw faces she knew. Her college roommate, tears already forming. Her favorite aunt, hand pressed to her chest. Her father's business partners, exchanging confused glances. And there, in the front row, her mother. Margaret sat frozen, her face a mask of desperate confusion. Her eyes darted from Clara's ruined makeup to Clara's steady stride to Noah walking beside her, and Clara could see the calculations happening behind those familiar eyes. Fix this. Save this. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it. But Clara wasn't here to be fixed. She stopped halfway down the aisle, not at the altar, not at the front. Right in the middle, where everyone could see her. Where everyone could hear. Noah stopped too. He stood a step behind her and to the side. Support, not leadership. Letting her own this moment. Liam finally found his voice. Clara. He laughed, that charming, disarming laugh she'd once loved. Darling, what's going on? Your makeup is ruined, Clara said. Her voice carried in the silence, clear and steady. Because I was crying. At the altar. 15 minutes before I was supposed to marry you. A ripple went through the congregation. Whispers started, quickly shushed. Liam's smile tightened. Wedding jitters. Every bride gets them. Come here, let's. No. The word was simple. Absolute. I'm not coming anywhere near you, Liam. Not until everyone here understands why I was crying. From the front row, Victoria rose. Her movements were elegant, controlled, but Clara saw the steel beneath. Saw the way her eyes flicked to Noah with something that looked like murder. Clara, dear. Victoria's voice was honey and broken glass. Whatever you're feeling, this isn't the time or place. Think of your parents. Think of your guests. Let's get through the ceremony, and we can discuss. We can discuss it now. Clara reached into the small pocket hidden in her wedding dress, a detail she'd laughed about with the seamstress, never imagining she'd use it for this. She pulled out Noah's phone. Victoria's expression didn't change, but something in her posture shifted. A subtle tightening. A predator recognizing danger. What is that? Liam asked. His voice had lost the charm. What remained was cold. Curious. Dangerous. Clara held up the phone. This is a recording. Of you and your mother. From 3 days ago. Discussing your acquisition of me. The word hung in the air like smoke. Acquisition. Liam's face went pale. Victoria's mask cracked, just slightly, just for a second, but Clara saw it. That's private property, Liam said. His voice was controlled, but Clara could hear the edge underneath. Whatever you think you have. I know what I have. Clara's thumb hovered over the play button. I know exactly what I have. The question is whether everyone here should know too. Her mother stood up. Clara, please. Whatever this is, we can handle it privately. Think about what you're doing. I am thinking about it. Clara looked at her mother, really looked at her. Saw the fear, the desperation, the love twisted into something that prioritized appearances over truth. For the first time in 18 months, Mom, I'm thinking about what I want. What I need. And I need everyone here to understand why I can't marry this man. Clara. Liam stepped down from the altar. He walked toward her, movements careful, controlled, the way you'd approach a spooked animal. Let's go somewhere private and talk about this. Whatever you heard, whatever you think you heard, it's not what it seems. You know me. You know us. Clara almost laughed. I don't know you at all. That's the point. She looked at the faces around her. Her father, pale and shaking. Her mother, torn between damage control and genuine fear. Her friends, confused and worried. Strangers, hungry for drama. And Victoria, standing perfectly still, her eyes fixed on Clara with an expression that promised retribution. The thing about recordings, Clara said slowly, is that they don't lie. They don't spin. They just play back exactly what was said. She looked at Liam. Do you remember what you said, Liam? About me being adequate? About how I'd forget I ever had opinions of my own? The whispers erupted now. People couldn't help themselves. The word adequate traveled through the congregation like fire through dry grass. Liam's face contorted. For one horrible second, Clara saw what lived beneath the charm. Cold rage, pure and terrifying. Then he controlled it. Smooth as glass. Clara, you're emotional. You're stressed. Weddings do this to people. He took another step toward her. Put the phone down. Let's talk like adults. No. Clara stepped back, closer to Noah. You don't get to manage me anymore. You don't get to decide what I hear and when I hear it. You and your mother spent 18 months shaping me into someone who wouldn't fight back, and you know what? It almost worked. I almost walked down that aisle. I almost gave you everything. Her voice cracked on the last word, but she didn't stop. But then someone showed me the truth. Someone who actually gave a damn about what happened to me. She glanced at Noah, just briefly, just enough. Your brother. The disappointment. The one who wasn't supposed to matter. Every eye in the church turned to Noah. He stood steady, unflinching, meeting the stares with quiet dignity. Liam's expression shifted. The cold rage found a new target. You, he breathed. Of course. The failure, crawling back to destroy what he can't have. I don't want anything you have, Noah said quietly. I never did. Victoria moved then. She walked down the aisle toward them, elegant and terrifying, her heels clicking against the marble like a countdown. When she reached them, she stopped directly in front of Clara. Young woman, she said softly, you have no idea what you're doing. That phone contains private family matters. If you play that recording in public, you're not just hurting Liam. You're hurting yourself. Your family. Everyone who came here today to support you. Clara met her eyes. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. I know exactly what I'm doing, Clara finally said. For the first time in longer than I can remember, I know exactly what I'm doing. She raised the phone. Clara, don't, her father started. Please, sweetheart, her mother begged. Liam moved. Fast. Faster than Clara expected. He crossed the space between them in 3 quick strides and grabbed for the phone. But Noah was faster. He stepped between them, one arm coming up to block Liam's reach, his body a solid wall between his brother and Clara. The two brothers faced each other, Liam in his perfect suit, burning with rage, Noah in his too short sleeves, steady as stone. Don't, Noah said. Liam's eyes blazed. You don't get to do this. You don't get to come back here and destroy everything I've built because you're jealous of. Jealous. Noah's voice was quiet, but it cut through Liam's fury like a blade. I'm not jealous of you, Liam. I've never been jealous of you. I pity you. The word hit harder than any shout. You're going to stand there with the woman you were going to marry and tell me you pity me. Liam's laugh was ugly. You, who couldn't handle the family, who ran away to play bookstore in some nowhere town. I ran away because I couldn't watch what you and Mother did to people. Noah's voice stayed quiet, but something burned in his eyes now. I couldn't watch you destroy anyone else. And I've spent 10 years regretting that I didn't fight harder. That I didn't stay and protect the people you hurt. He stepped closer to Liam. They were almost the same height, Clara realized. She'd never noticed before. I'm not running this time. The words hung between them. Behind Clara, the congregation had gone completely silent. No whispers now. No movement. 200 people watching a family tear itself apart. Victoria stepped forward, inserting herself between her sons. For a moment, she was just a mother, torn, desperate, trying to hold together something that was already shattered. Noah. Liam. Stop this. Her voice was strained. Not here. Not like this. Liam ignored her. His eyes were fixed on Noah with an intensity that made Clara's skin crawl. You think you're saving her? You think she'll thank you for this? He gestured at Clara. Look at her. Standing there in a ruined dress with your phone in her hand. You've made her a spectacle. A joke. She'll never recover from this. Clara stepped around Noah. Faced Liam directly. I'll recover, she said quietly. I'll recover because I'm not marrying you. I'll recover because I found out the truth before it was too late. I'll recover because someone finally showed me that I had a choice. She held up the phone one last time. Your mother asked if I knew what I was doing. I do. I'm choosing not to be adequate. I'm choosing not to be malleable. I'm choosing me." Liam's face twisted. For one horrible second, Clara thought he might hit her. She saw the impulse in his eyes, the barely controlled violence. Then Victoria grabbed his arm. "Enough." Her voice was sharp, commanding. "This is over. Let them go." Liam wrenched his arm free. "Mother." "I said enough." Victoria's eyes met Clara's. For just a moment, something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Or grief. The look of one trapped woman seeing another walk free. Then Victoria turned away. Walked back to her seat. Sat down with perfect posture and stared straight ahead, her face a mask of porcelain composure. Liam stood frozen, rage and humiliation warring on his features. Around them, the congregation shifted uncomfortably, unsure what to do, where to look. Clara turned to Noah. "I'm ready." Noah nodded. He held out his hand. Clara took it. Toj. Whispers and the stares and the wreckage of the perfect wedding. They reached the doors. Clara paused, looking back one last time. Liam stood alone at the altar, his perfect wedding in ruins around him. Victoria sat frozen in the front row. 200 guests watched in silence. Clara looked at Noah. "Will you show me that garden? The one you came through." Noah's smile was small but real. "I'll show you more than that." They walked through the doors together, into the light. The doors closed behind them, and the world changed. One moment, Clara was inside the chapel, trapped in candlelight and silence and 200 staring eyes. The next, she was standing in the garden, afternoon sun warming her face, fresh air filling her lungs for the first time in what felt like years. She let go of Noah's hand and kept walking. Not away from him, just forward, toward the nearest bench, her legs suddenly unable to hold her. She sank onto the cold stone, her wedding dress pooling around her in a waterfall of white silk and lace. The dress weighed 1,000 pounds now. Every pearl, every stitch, every carefully placed detail felt like chains she was still wearing. Noah didn't follow immediately. He stood a few feet away, giving her space, his hands in his pockets and his eyes on the horizon. Waiting. Always waiting, she realized. He'd been waiting this whole time, for her to decide, for her to speak, for her to breathe. Clara pressed both hands to her face and shook. No tears came. She was empty of tears. But her whole body trembled with the aftermath of what she'd just done. Adrenaline and shock and something that might have been freedom coursing through her veins like electricity. "I did it," she whispered into her palms. "I actually did it." Behind her, the chapel doors remained closed. No one had followed. Maybe no one would. Maybe they were all still sitting there, frozen in place, trying to process what they'd witnessed. Or maybe Liam was already spinning the story, already working the room, already turning her into the villain who destroyed his perfect day. It didn't matter. She was out. Clara lowered her hands and looked at the garden. It was beautiful, she realized. She'd never actually seen it before. The rehearsal had been rushed, the morning a blur of preparation. She'd walked past this garden a dozen times without really seeing it. Now she saw everything. The roses climbing the stone walls. The ancient oak tree casting dappled shade. The fountain in the distance, water catching sunlight and throwing it back in rainbows. A path leading somewhere she couldn't see, somewhere beyond the church grounds, beyond the prison she'd almost entered. "It's beautiful," she said. "I never noticed." Noah moved then, walking slowly to sit on the bench beside her. Not too close. Close enough. "That's what they do," he said quietly. "They make you so focused on surviving that you stop seeing anything else." Clara looked at him. Really looked. In the sunlight, she could see things she'd missed in the dim chapel, the faint lines around his eyes, the way his dark hair curled slightly at the ends, the small scar on his chin she'd never noticed before. He looked tired. He looked like someone who'd been carrying something heavy for a very long time. "Your family," Clara said. "They're going to destroy you for this." Noah shrugged. It was the same gesture he'd used before, but now she saw the weight underneath. The grief he was trying to hide. They can't destroy what's already gone, he said. I lost my family years ago, Clara. I just kept showing up because, I don't know, because hope dies hard, I guess. Because some part of me kept thinking maybe they'd change. Maybe my mother would finally see me. Maybe Liam would remember we used to be brothers. Used to be. Noah was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was distant, remembering. When we were kids, Liam was different. He was my big brother. He protected me from bullies, taught me how to throw a baseball, snuck me candy when our mother wasn't looking. A sad smile touched his lips. Then he got older. Started spending more time with her. Started learning what it meant to be a Hayes. Clara thought about the man at the altar. The cold rage in his eyes. The way he'd moved toward her like she was a problem to be solved. It was hard to imagine that man as a boy sneaking candy to his little brother. What happened? Our father died. Noah's voice was flat. I was 12. Liam was 16. And my mother, she didn't know how to be alone. So she made Liam into the man of the house. Gave him all the attention, all the responsibility, all the validation he'd ever wanted. And he loved it. Loved being important. Loved having power. He paused. Loved it so much he forgot he ever had a brother. Clara's heart ached for him, for the boy who'd lost his father and his brother in the same moment. She understood now why he'd left. Why he'd built a life far away from all of this. Why he'd come back today, knowing what it would cost him. You came anyway, she said softly. To the wedding. Knowing she'd be here. Knowing it would hurt. I came because my brother was getting married. Noah met her eyes. I came because some part of me still hoped. I don't know what I hoped. That he'd be different. That she'd be different. That maybe this time, I'd matter enough to be included. Did you matter? Noah's smile was sad. I mattered enough to catch the bride crying. I mattered enough to have a recording they forgot about. I mattered enough to walk you out of there. He paused. Maybe that's enough. From inside the chapel, they heard a sudden swell of noise, voices rising, chairs scraping, the chaos of 200 people finally released from their frozen shock. The wedding was over. The aftermath was beginning. Clara's phone buzzed in the hidden pocket of her dress. Then again. Then again. Messages piling up. Her mother, her father, friends, strangers. She didn't look. What do we do now? She asked. Noah considered the question. First, we breathe. Then we figure out the rest. Clara almost laughed. That's your plan. Breathe. It's a good plan. Noah's voice was gentle. You just walked out on your wedding in front of 200 people. You destroyed your relationship with one of the most powerful families in the city. You have no idea what comes next. Breathing is exactly what you need to do. He was right. She knew he was right. But knowing and doing were two different things, and her body was still vibrating with the need to run, to hide, to do something. I can't go back to my apartment, she said, thinking out loud. Liam has keys. He'll come looking. You can stay with me. The words came out before Noah seemed to realize he'd said them. He glanced at her, something uncertain flickering in his grey eyes. I mean, temporarily. I have a guest room. It's not fancy, but it's safe. And it's far from here. My place is on the other side of the city. Liam wouldn't think to look for you there. Clara stared at him. You barely know me. I know you're brave. I know you're honest. I know you chose yourself when it would have been easier to disappear. He held her gaze. That's more than I know about most people. The chapel doors creaked open behind them. They both turned. Clara's mother stood in the doorway, her face a wreck of tears and anger and desperate love. Behind her, Clara could see the chaos of the congregation spilling into the garden, guests milling about, unsure whether to leave or stay. Clara. Her mother's voice cracked. Clara, please. Come back inside. We can fix this. We can. There's nothing to fix, Mom. Clara stood, her wedding dress rustling around her. I'm not marrying him. I was never going to marry him. I just didn't know it until today. Her mother's face crumpled. Your father, the business, everything we've worked for. I know. Clara's voice was gentle but firm. I know what this costs. I know what I'm asking you to accept. But I can't spend my life being adequate, Mom. I can't be malleable. Not even for you. Something shifted in her mother's expression. For just a moment, beneath the fear and the desperation, Clara saw something else. Recognition. Maybe even pride. You're so like I was, her mother whispered. Before I learned to be smaller. The words hit Clara like a wave. She crossed the space between them and took her mother's hands. Then teach me something different, she said. Teach me how to be big without being punished for it. Teach me how to be brave. Her mother's tears fell freely now. She squeezed Clara's hands, then let go. Go, she said quietly. Before I change my mind. Before your father comes looking. Go somewhere safe and let me handle the wreckage. Clara hesitated. Mom. I'll be okay. Her mother's smile was shaky but real. I've been handling wreckage my whole life. At least this time it's for something that matters. She looked past Clara at Noah, standing quietly by the bench. Her eyes assessed him, the too-short suit, the quiet steadiness, the way he hadn't moved or spoken or tried to insert himself into their moment. Take care of her, Clara's mother said. Or I'll find you. Noah nodded. Yes, Clara hugged her mother once, fierce and quick. Then she turned and walked toward Noah, leaving the chapel and the garden and her old life behind. They walked down the path together, past the fountain, past the roses, past the point where the church grounds ended and the city began. Clara's wedding dress swished against the pavement, absurd and beautiful and completely out of place on a city sidewalk. People stared. She didn't care. Where's your car? She asked. Don't have one. Noah's voice held a hint of embarrassment. I walk everywhere. Or take the train. Clara stopped walking. Looked at him. At his too short sleeves and his earnest expression and the way he was trying so hard to help her without any of the resources his family had. You're taking me home on the train, she said slowly. In this dress. Unless you'd rather walk. For a long moment, Clara just stared at him. Then something happened that surprised them both. She laughed. It started small, just a hiccup of sound, then grew until she was doubled over, clutching her stomach, tears streaming down her face. Real tears this time, not of grief but of release. The absurdity of it all. The beautiful, perfect absurdity. Noah watched her, a smile tugging at his own lips. Is that a good laugh or a bad laugh? I don't know. Clara straightened, wiping her eyes. I think it's a free laugh. I think it's the first time I've laughed in 18 months. They stood there on the sidewalk, two strangers bound by a secret and a recording and a wedding that never happened. The sun was warm on Clara's face. The city hummed around them. Somewhere behind them, chaos reigned. But here, in this moment, there was only peace. Noah held out his hand. Train stations this way. You'll probably get some interesting looks. Clara looked at his hand. At the simple offer it represented. Not a cage. Not a transaction. Just connection. She took it. I've had enough interesting looks for one day, she said. Let's go home. They walked together toward the train station, her white dress trailing behind her like a flag of surrender, not to the enemy, but to the possibility of something new. Behind them, the church grew smaller. Ahead, the city opened wide. Clara didn't look back.